Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the AutoTrader Podcast, South Africa's #1 motoring podcast. My name is George Mienie, and as usual, joined by none other than Wandile Sishi. We've got others in the episode, but we'll get there in a second. Today's episode is called the EV Road Test episode, and we have the Goliath brothers with us.
Yeah, we have Goliath and Goliath with us.
Yes. Not the brothers. We're going to get into that reason in a second, but we've got Jason Goliath and Nicholas Goliath. Do they call you something else besides Nicholas Goliath?
Call him Nick.
No, they call me Nick. Yeah, my friends weren't very creative when it came to nicknames.
I actually have a bone to pick with the Goliath and Goliath.
Yes, let's hear it.
Oh, straight into violence.
Let's go.
Straight into it. I've been waiting years for this moment. It's actually why I joined AutoTrader, because I knew this would happen.
You were just biding
I was just biding my time.
Nice.
And it goes back 2 years ago when I decided to go to a comedy show.
Yes.
And I wanted to see everything in HD.
Yeah.
So I went and sat in the front.
As one always should when you go to a comedy show.
Thinking you're going to get everything.
You hear the jokes
You
first.
hear the jokes
There are
first.
two types of people that sit in the front row. There's the type of person that loves to sit in the front row because they want a little bit of attention.
Yeah.
And then it's that person's
Sadist.
partner who hates sitting in the front row and does not want attention and is basically in a hostage situation for the whole show.
It felt like that because I got my money's worth. It wasn't HD. In fact, it was in 4K IMAX because I just got roasted for the good 30 minutes by you. Yeah.
What did I say?
My head, you name it.
Let's start. How did you draw attention to yourself? Let's start there. Did you
I
say
even
something?
try to hide.
That's why you draw attention. We are attracted to those who are looking down.
Yes.
I tried my best.
best.
But it was good fun. I had a good time. So,
I did not see that coming,
Were you-
and that
were
was
you-
not in the script.
Were you there on a date?
I was on a date with I guess my now ex.
Now ex. But I mean, not because of me.
Maybe it could have been the beginning of the end.
Let's talk about
Let's
Let's talk about electric cars. Let's talk about electric cars because unlike your ex, they are quiet.
And will be around forever.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you're ever at a comedy show with Goliath and Goliath, sit in the front.
Yes, please.
Please look up.
Yes. And chirp us, please.
Exactly.
Have fun.
Chirp.
Look like you're having fun, and then we don't worry with you.
If you don't have fun, fake it.
Yes.
Acted, yeah, no.
Laugh when everybody else is
I
laughing.
learned my lesson.
You did that way too well. So today we're going to be talking to Jason and Nicholas Goliath about our recent EV road test, debunking some EV myths, and seeing whether they've converted. I think they might have, but seeing whether they've converted. I think at the time they told us that they were converted, and then we'll be talking a lot about what then is the first inaugural AutoTrader, annual South African electric car test, sponsored by or powered by or supported by AutoTrader.
All of the above.
All of the above. So, before we get into the actual EV road test, Jason, let's start with you. Now, you said Goliath and Goliath. I called you the Goliath brothers, but
Everybody does.
I'm not so sure you are brothers
So we're not brothers at all.
by blood.
Because I want to talk about cars, I'm going to make this as quick as possible. So everybody assumes we're brothers because we're kind of three comedians with the same surname. Where in fact there are 4 Goliaths. So Kate is our MD and our manager. She heads up Goliath and Goliath, and she's not on stage. She's kind of behind the scenes and keeps us all PC and make sure that we are where we need to be.
Yeah.
She's my sister. Nicholas is our cousin, so our dads are brothers.
Yeah.
More than 5 minutes apart. Yeah. So we feel like brothers. And then when Nick and I started comedy in 2011, a week after our first set, we met Donovan Goliath, who had been performing for a couple of months and was doing a set at the same club called the Underground in Melville. And immediately we became mates with Don. So that's why the name Goliath and Goliath, because he's got no relation. We've tried to find familiar links. He's from Tata. Our parents are, Joburg, Durban split mainly in terms of where family is. And we meet this guy. So it's Goliath, the family name for Kate, Nicholas, and myself, and Goliath, the Xhosa one from
So his surname is also Goliath.
same surname.
What are the chances that would
The chances are very slim.
And being in comedy.
Exactly. And it's not a common surname.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? mean? So it's not often you bump into people. I mean, maybe now since I think our name is out there a bit more, we have people coming up to us going, "Hey, I'm a Goliath," or do you know Mr. Goliath used to teach
from Revolves?
yes,
the Goliaths from no.
100%. But long story short, we're not, but we feel like family, and we run a little comedy business, and comedy's been kind to us.
Very,
On top of that,
very
you also
nice.
love vehicles and cars, which is
Obsessed.
yeah.
Obsessed. I have a problem.
Is that white BMW in the front there yours?
It's a loaner. So I'm spending some time in the new M4 competition, and it is it's something nice to spend some time in. I've got I'm a M fan. I've got a F10 M5, which is my daily, and a E92, which is why I'm enjoying this one. So I've still got my E92 M3, and this is the evolution thereof. And yeah, well done.
I mean, you also, Nicholas, you're also a BMW man.
I am a
through and
BMW
through.
man. I've got a 520D because I like to conserve my budget. when it comes
No,
to fuel
because
consumption.
he likes having children.
I also have 2 children.
Nick and I have a very clear. I'm like, we make different choices, so we spend our money differently.
I could have an F10, but I pay school fees.
Private school. Yeah, you want private school, or you want an M5? Make
Well,
it.
there you go. Well, in that vein, let's learn a little bit about you two guys, and let's. I'm gonna shoot some quick fire questions. There's about 7 of them, and you can answer in any order, but both of you give a rapid fire answer. So here's the first question: winter or summer?
Summer.
Winter.
Burger or steak?
Steak.
At the moment, a burger. Burgers are becoming so delicious. Steak is inconsistent.
Book or movie?
Movie.
I want to say book, but also movie.
I haven't read a book since Matric, and even then I watched the movie Macbeth.
Oh, book is so PC, right?
No, but I
the right
enjoy
answer.
reading. Like, yeah.
You know, Nicholas has and I've debated this because Nick started reading a lot later in life, I think, than a lot of people I know, where he just kind of found that, reading is a thing. And then there was that sentence that, and we used to say it all the time, that the thing about books is the answer to everything is in books. So whatever you're going through, whatever you're feeling, or whatever you need, whatever you're looking forward to, whatever you're planning, the knowledge is there. The answers are in books. And then I like people that go and find those answers, and then I meet with them for drinks, and then I say, so tell me about your favorite parts of that book. And then I steal the knowledge vicariously.
I love it. That's almost like your very own Google.
Yeah, basically.
In terms of holiday, bush or beach?
Beach.
Beach, yeah.
In terms of car, ICE, battery, electric, or hybrid?
It's $1 million question.
Before I was all about the internal combustion. It's the sound, it's the emotion. Then I spent some time with you guys in an EV for the first time in my life, and here's my straight up comparison. I remember how we felt about diesel. I remember us saying that diesel is for trucks and lorries. How dare they start putting diesel in cars? And then very quickly we realized that in a lot of cases diesel is better depending on what you need. And I feel exactly the same way about electric vehicles. I remember 15 years ago, somebody saying to me, there's going to come a time where you're going to drive an automatic car. And I said, well, maybe if I've got to cut off one of my feet from the ground. But other than that, I will never drive an auto. And he said, well, facts are technology is going to get to a point where automatic boxes will be able to change quicker than you could ever change. And I didn't believe that. Now I drive a double clutch automatic car and I'm obsessed with it. Electric vehicles are the same step up. It's the move from, we thought DVD was the be all and end all, then Blu-ray came. We thought VHS was it. This is the next. It is better. Stop fighting it. EVs are better. So me, next EV. Yeah, it is what it is.
It sounds like I'm speaking to George all over again.
No, it is what it is. It's the truth. I hate that you've done this to me. I'm embarrassed.
Well, he spent hours with me in the car. So.
I think I have to go hybrid.
Yeah.
But my slightly different take on a hybrid. Like I want an ICE and an EV. That will be my hybrid.
Okay.
Oh, you want to?
You-
I
Two-
want
two
one of
different
each. Yeah, because I love the ICE vehicles. Like Jay says, it's about the sound, it's about the feeling. But yeah, also like he says, you guys converted us, man. Like an EV, it's just, we were chatting about it earlier, and I was saying, just for around town, it's I can't see why not. It makes perfect sense. They're wonderful.
It's just better. It's just better. They took everything they knew in ICE, and then they put electric motors that need less servicing and develop torque all over the place.
I feel betrayed.
It is what it is.
Yeah, sorry, man.
Okay, then what was your first car?
My first car, emotional for me, was a very special car, actually. It was a 1984 Toyota Corolla 1.6 TRD. So there were a lot of 1.8 TRDs, the hatchbacks, and there were very, very few sedan, 4-door sedan, the baby crest shape we used to call it. TRD. I owned it it was my dad's car, and he gave it to me for my 16th birthday. And it was stolen 3 months later.
You know that in South Africa you can only get a license at 18, eh?
Well,
That was my next question. Yeah.
I used to drive it in the yard.
Okay.
We won't go into
Jason's
that.
always looked this old. So
Nicholas, first car.
my first car, also very emotional, was an Opel Kadett, and it's emotional because the driver's door had a immobilizer lock, and the passenger door, somebody tried to steal the car and had broken the lock.
Was that a Calvin's Kadett?
Yes.
Oh,
Is it a super bus or just like a normal?
No, my man.
Okay.
This is from the
Just-
GSE shape.
Okay.
Three
Normal,
super boss shape.
Yeah. And then, which basically meant that was my first car to go to university with. And it was really exciting when I had to leave and climb in through the boot. because
No, but your dad knew, because Nick is a very good-looking young man, big bright eyes, big bright smile. That Kadett was a contraceptive measure on behalf of his parents.
And now I have 2 kids.
Post-Kadett.
Both good did, yeah.
Cadet couldn't do anything about this cuteness.
And then I think you've answered this question, Jason. What is your current car, besides the one that you're driving at the moment? Well, let's go with what is your favorite car out of the ones that you...
So, man, it's a toss-up. I like them all. I call them unicorn cars, and I go and buy the cars that I once would have put a poster on my wall and couldn't afford when they were new. So I've got an old E24 635 CSI left-hand drive turbo. That's one of my garage queens. I kept my E92 M3, which I dailied for a very long time.
Yeah.
Did all the preventative maintenance, which I still love. It's just a raw, normally aspirated, manual rear-wheel drive car, which is the way it was intended. And I really think that the F10, M5, if you can afford the maintenance, is the best bang for buck in the second-hand market at the moment.
Lovely. Nicholas.
Yeah, I've got my 520D. I'm quite happy. Hey? I get great mileage. My kids love it. They sit comfortably, and it goes like an M5 at the top.
In traffic, definitely.
Definitely. Like not as quickly, but I mean, when we're on the road and we're doing 120, it's the same car.
Legally, it goes exactly the
It's
same.
identical. We drive the same car.
You're right.
My wife
Exactly.
thinks the same thing as well.
So some interesting facts about EVs in South Africa. We probably spoke about this in the cars when we were driving, but South Africa's got one of the highest charging station ratios per EV. I don't know if you and I spoke about it in the car, or if Nicholas spoke about it when you were driving, but we have one charger for every 4 EVs, whereas in the international ratio is one charger for every 20 EVs. So there's a lot more EVs per charger internationally than in South Africa. How have your guys' perceptions changed about the charging infrastructure since doing the EV road test? I mean, before coming to the road test, did you know that there were 300 chargers in South Africa?
So no. And also, I don't know if it's that thing that, because you're now thinking about something, you see them all over.
Yeah.
But before, I never used to see them. Now I'm like, oh, here's the disabled bay. Then there's the friends and family bay, mom with kids bay. And then there's an EV bay
Yeah.
at the malls. I'm like, look at this. This is
At
great.
malls
So
that we used to go to all the time and not see them. Yeah.
my perception definitely changed.
It's funny. I mean, comedy is probably not a far stretch from being a magician, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Tricks with words.
You're doing tricks with words, making
Yeah.
people laugh. A magician does sleight of hand.
Yeah.
And
Misdirection.
It's misdirection. So, the fact that you didn't notice the EV charging stations, it's because it's right there at the door.
That's it.
But you don't see it.
Because you never have use for it. That's
Yes.
why. So
It's just not there.
Yeah, you look straight past it. Like I didn't even know they were disabled and mom and kids bays.
I did also see that I think it's Audi recently just announced that they're also going to be investing a lot more. So they're going to be everywhere. It's not going to be a case of you have to go and look for it or use some sort of software to find one. They're going to be everywhere.
But I also think that, South Africa is always a little bit behind the trend, and I'm happy that we're not waiting for South Africans to kind of catch up and making sure that the infrastructure is ready. Because this is one of those things I think that, as petrol heads and car people, we've got to accept.
Yeah.
This is the next, this is the way it's going. And it's because of our ICE vehicles, because we finished the petrol, because we finished the environment. Now we must, we're dealing with the
Yeah.
But also, it's completely different to what people expect. Like for me personally, the whole experience about driving an EV and just the the efficiency and everything that comes along with it is completely different. I think that a lot of people, once they understand the benefits of owning an EV, are going to be easy to switch over from ICE vehicles.
On that note, what was the biggest like sort of mind switch that you experienced?
Performance, guys. Like, as I know I said this in the video several times, but I always imagined when I heard about EVs for the first time, I had this image of my first remote control car.
Some Prius.
No, dude, I'm
those
way
were the
older.
cord. Those were the cord.
Those were the cord attached. You have to run around.
Yeah,
that was like your original treadmill. Like when your parents didn't want to take you out running, they're like, yeah, have a car. So I expected it to have that slow. I don't know why I expected it to be slower and have less performance. But then once I understood that there's no engine, there's nothing that needs to warm up. When you put your foot in the accelerator, the power is there immediately.
Yeah.
That was the moment that changed my life. I was like, okay, EV.
I think I articulated it in the set of videos we did as it feels like you're driving a turbocharged car that's in optimum boost at all times. So with a turbo car you've got some lag and then you've got the power band and so there'll be a very specific limited ratio. Here, from the second you touch the throttle, it's in boost. But more than that, I think the most surprising thing was the fact that it felt like a car. You know what I mean? And because your mind, you think it's going to feel like something else, and it feels like a car. For 90% of the time, you're going to forget you're driving an electric car because it just feels like a really, really good car. That's what it feels like.
That 10% difference is where you're not sure if it's idling or not. You're just listening to
that silence,
Well, somebody said something to me at, we were at the Jaguar Land Rover Experience Center the other day, on their skid pan. Just saying. We were on the skid pan and we were talking about the EV because we were driving, all of Jaguar's cars. There's only one that you can take on the skid pan. That's the rear wheel drive.
The F-Type.
F-Type, but the instructor said something interesting that I'd never thought about before, and that was when everybody says this, the exhaust sounds are gone, and you don't get that that roar of the V8 engine, but you're trading it for something else because your sensors take in the exhaust sound, and we associate speed with sound, noise. Okay, and suddenly you climb into an EV and the speed is there, but the noise is not there. So, but you're freeing up one sense to really engage with the torque of the car.
I mean, I can. Now that you've pointed that out, I can feel exactly that because generally, as a driver, you're using that exhaust tone to not look at the rev counter to tell you where to change gears, what the engine is doing. And in this case, that's something that you never have to worry about. You never have to think about that.
It's kind of like your
senses engage differently. You can really appreciate the torque of the car now because the sound's gone.
It's almost like in old Western movies, or I guess Eastern movies, with the blind samurai. You lose one sense, and then all of a sudden, he's so much more engaged with what's going on.
That's exactly what I think they were trying to get at. Your senses become different.
And I think if you really miss it, like the new cars now, the new ICE vehicles come with that adjustable sound system that will play the synthetic exhaust
and it sounds
sound.
Great. It sounds great.
The best one I've heard is the BMW. BMW gave me the iX40 to drive about 2 weeks ago. So I took it down to the Orange Free State.
Of course.
And
that's the first place you want to go.
Heinz
Zimmer, I think his name is. He designed he designed all the sounds for the Star Wars movies.
Proper.
When you switch on that BMW iX, it's like you're in a spaceship. It's like
that's all you want. I can't even George Jetson. I want to be George Jetson.
Not even my iPay switches on like that.
And I mean, I remember years ago, I think it was one of the Clio RSs came with the option to change. So you could have a classic Clio V6 and you could basically set up and put in different tracks. And I think that's what's exciting is if you really love the sound of your ICE vehicle, very soon you're going to put a little flash drive in, download the engine note, and it's going to sound like that all the time.
But only in the car for you.
And, and only in the car for you. And then you realize how many of the new vehicles are insulated too well. So a lot of the M vehicles, for example, have a synthetic sound being pumped through. So as old as my 2013 M5 has a synthetic sound being pumped through because the cabin is too insulated to enjoy the exhaust note. So this is not new. We've been listening to the fake stuff already.
So what exactly happened at this EV road test? I obviously wasn't there. So what were the challenges that you guys were kind of doing?
So on day one, we were at the Oval. Duratec's Oval, and the objective at that Oval was to really drive the cars at a constant speed to see what kind of range we could get out of them, in South African conditions. And
But these conditions were a set speed. It's not like
so we drove at 120 kilometers an hour.
Okay,
we had GPSs in the car.
Yeah.
And I mean, Jason and I knew we were going to get the most range. I mean,
which cars were you guys in? Which car were you in?
I was in the i3, which Jeepers, what a wonderful car. BM.
I don't think BM got enough praise for it.
No.
I don't think they got enough praise.
You'd be surprised. It is still the top selling EV in South Africa. So, from that point
I
of view.
do question the big biscuit wheel they have. Like, I'm just like, who has a 20-inch biscuit? But anyway, other than that,
a blend of efficiency and coolness.
Exactly.
You
You
know,
can't
on the
fool
streets you got 20 inches, but then, the width, girth is not essential.
So talking about the BMW, that it boasts 203 kilometers of range, but that's not what you get in in highway and real world conditions. I mean, I think we found that out.
One of the biggest lessons I learned is how important brakes are in EV, and to do that switch in terms of it's a big economy switch. And I think we spent a lot of time speaking about when you're in an ICE vehicle, you want to get to the highway as quickly as possible. Stop-go traffic means you're burning more fuel than you actually need to, and driving at a consistent speed is also going to help you when they do all of those tests. Whereas with the EV, if you're not touching the brake, you're not assisting any charge, and so much charge comes
coming out from the
brakes.
braking.
What is it called again? That thing?
Regenerative braking.
Regenerative braking. That's the biggest lesson I learned is that it's supposed to be in stop-go.
It's like giving you free fuel, essentially, just by driving.
Slow down.
Yeah.
Every time you slow down.
No, I think that was also the biggest for me, because your mind says you're going to get more distance when you're doing the consistent speed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Makes perfect
Makes
sense.
sense
That's
in
the
an
way
ICE
we've
vehicle,
been trained all our lives. And then complete opposite.
100%. It's like now we're going to be worrying about screen brightness like your phone. It's the truth.
Well, I mean, I think at the end of when our iPace got to close to zero, turned off the aircon, and then Jason was saying things to me like, "We got to turn the screen brightness down, treat it like a cell phone," like that last 5%.
Yeah, so like in an ICE vehicle, you try and coast in gear down the hill to not burn fuel. Here, you just turn all your brightnesses down. You know what I mean? Make it.
So we also had the Mini SC that was on test. That was there, which is boasts a range of around 270. That's on the same platform as the i3, if I'm not mistaken, though.
So if you watch the video,
well, they cheated a little bit, I think.
maybe.
So I mean, it's all down to, it's not the car that doesn't get the range; it's really the size of the battery pack, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think there's this misconception that EVs need to do this massive range, and it doesn't, because who does more than 60 kilometers in a day anyway?
You're not, unless you're doing that foolish commute from Pretoria to Johannesburg every morning.
Yes.
I can tell you now for free, your boss is not paying you enough for that. I don't mean to break your spirit, but I've seen your face in the traffic in the morning. You're not happy about the situation. Find a job for less money in Pretoria, and act accordingly. But the point is this: I think if once a quarter I go on a road trip, that's a lot.
Yeah.
So if I once a quarter go somewhere further than 150 kilometers, that's a lot, and therefore why is it so important?
I agree. Why not live closer to where you work? It'll cost you less stress. But when you're driving an EV, it's like meditating anyway.
Yes.
So, let's talk about load shedding and range anxiety. So, do you guys think, now that you've driven these EVs, you were on the road test with us, and load shedding, what is your thoughts around, will load shedding really affect the future of EVs in South Africa?
Look, I think load shedding is going to affect everything in South Africa. So obviously there will be some slight impact, but I don't think as bigger impact as everybody understands. And I think the easiest way for me to articulate that is load shedding is going to affect your EV the same way it's affected your cell phone. And for most of you, that's not at all. And if it is, you get the schedule and you make sure you've charged before the lights are going to go off. Because I mean, it's we've got apps from the government and apps not from the government. There are always ways to know and find out. And if your cell phone has survived, your EV is going to survive. Yeah.
George always says that once you get home, you just plug it in.
That's it.
It's not like you kind of timing it.
I don't check my phone at night. I don't check to see what the battery level is. When I get into bed, I plug it in. Whether it's on 80% or 2%, I plug it in as a habit. Then you're going to develop the same habits.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that because we have the load shedding problem already, the technology is going to be built to factor that into consideration and so that we can bypass that. I mean, Jay's got battery packs in his house so that when load shedding happens, 100%. His house is not affected.
Exactly.
And I don't see why we can't have the same technology in the charging stations.
You will. I guarantee you will.
So, I think it will affect perhaps in the beginning, but I don't think it's going to be...
It's not a big... I don't think it's a big deal.
I don't think it's something that's going to determine whether or not I buy an EV.
100%. It's not in the deciding factors.
No. Yeah.
It's not a big enough deal.
Do you charge your car every single day, George? out of curiosity.
Most days, yes.
And if you don't, it's not like you're going to run out of battery the next day.
No, like for instance, yesterday, night before last night, I didn't charge it. It was on 70%, and I knew where I was going to drive to the next day. Yeah. So I didn't charge it overnight. I thought, well, I'll charge it in the sunshine because it's free. So I didn't charge it overnight because at night I'll use Eskom. And then yesterday I did a drive to Sandton and a drive home, and then yesterday afternoon I charged it in the sunshine a little bit, and then I used Eskom overnight and I got it to 100%. I didn't need to.
Yeah. So even a scenario where there is load shedding and you missed your window, you would potentially have battery enough.
You're not going to use that entire battery. But let's talk about range anxiety. Jason can't talk about range anxiety because we didn't really experience it.
No, we didn't. Nicholas?
I think this is where we're supposed to video call Don, isn't it? And have the discussion. No, because the range anxiety, it got to us, but not to the point that I think Don was affected.
Yes.
And it's it's worse than an ICE vehicle, because in the ICE vehicle you know that you put in neutral, you coast, and you'll get there.
Yeah.
And like with your cell phone, when you've got that 2%. You know how long you've got to go. And if you're not near a charging station, it's fine because you can charge your phone in the car. But if your car is dead, then you can't charge it in another car. So it's terrifying.
Can I just say, though, that coming from poverty, range anxiety is not new to me. I mean, that
it's part of the fight.
As a student, the empty light used to be like a heater. You know what I mean? that orange light was on all the time. Yeah. Range anxiety. You know those sentences, I know my car. Don't worry. You know what I mean? I know my car. So it's exactly the same, but with obviously added pressure. My truth is, I don't understand how you get to a point where you're anxious about range, because at the moment we are planning all of the time. Even ICE vehicles now. I mean, I've got Apple CarPlay, and when it reaches a certain point, my phone notifies me to go, you're going to run out of fuel. Do you want to find a station? Yeah. So I go, range anxiety is going to be a real thing. But if you're going to own an electric vehicle, I definitely think you're going to be in the mindset of, act accordingly.
Yeah, you'll manage kind of that.
You're going to charge it. Think about your trips, which 99% of the time you do. You don't take a long drive without going to the garage. You know what I mean?
And George just recently did a trip, a long distance trip in an EV, and I think most cars are going in that range.
Yeah, well, I did have a little bit of range anxiety in the iX40, I'll tell you where. So I left my house. I left it about midday on a Saturday, and my plan was to get my mom lives about 50 k's from a town called Colesberg, which you're probably familiar with. She lives in a town called Noopwood, which is a drug rehab. But I wasn't going there for those reasons.
Not this time.
So anyway, so I leave my house, east of Joburg, and the charging, the last charging station before you leave Gauteng is Mall of the South.
Okay.
Okay, that's the charging station before you leave Gauteng, and then the next charging station is about 220 kilometers away. So I thought to myself, I'll charge at Mall of the South because I would have done about 20, 30 kilometers to Mall of the South and the top up, and then I'll easily make it to the first charging station, no problem. And so as I got to the intersection at Mall of the South, the traffic lights were out.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
And I thought, okay, what's going on here? So I phoned Grid Cars, who has got the charging infrastructure, and they said to me, no, sorry, that charging station's offline. There's a power issue in the area. Okay, let me keep going. No,
what is your indicated range at this time?
At this point, the indicated range was about 270 kilometers.
Okay, so technically you would have made it to the next station.
Technically, I would have made it to the next charger, which I did. I made it to the next charger. I think I had about 25% battery left when I got to that charging station. Made it all the way to Colesberg, all the way to my mom, no problem, because that's the longest stretch. It's about, from my house, about 260 kilometers to that charging station.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that's fine. Going there, I should make it coming back.
Yeah.
What you don't realize in an EV is that going uphill or downhill makes a difference.
Petrol as well, but it's not as noticeable maybe.
So between that charging station and Mall of the South, I got a bit of range anxiety because coming back, the car ate a lot more battery than going there. And I passed Mall of the South with about 10% of range left.
Confidently.
So I made it, but the car had used about just between 5 and 10% more coming back than what it did going down there. So
and people are going to figure these things out.
So what is the scenario if you do run out of? Do the OEMs have support? Like
there's a big support network for all of the OEMs. So they'll send out their team. More than likely with an EV, you're going to have to put it on a rollback. There's no jerry can with
you can't just top it up. And you can't also just plug it into one of those portable chargers.
Not yet.
Not yet.
They're going to make a briefcase one.
They're going to, you're going to put it in your boot just as an external charger.
You drove the BMW Rex, which was the one with the small petrol engine in the boot.
Yes. Which we didn't use.
Because there was no, we drained the tank. Yeah, but there is they're not making it anymore.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's a new i3 that's coming out, and I think the range is going to be a lot better. So that won't necessarily be necessary. But yeah, I mean, there's those options as well if you kind of scared.
I feel like the technology is going to catch up, and we're going to have charging points all along all the major routes, and it's not going to be a problem.
Well, we already do. It's just you need the bigger batteries to make them. Yes, there'll be more and more.
It'll be easier and more accessible.
I think with quantities of scale, as it grows, they're going to become more accessible, more affordable, and smarter. I mean, if I think about batteries that we use in life and the lifespan that we're getting now just with the battery technology the way it is, I think we're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I think they need to take the old 3310 batteries and start putting them
No, it's too much power. It's
too much power.
Fly to the moon.
Yeah, it's too much power.
Well, we are square out of time, ladies and gentlemen. So any final thoughts, Nicholas?
My final thoughts are thank you. And I still can't believe we got to be part of the first experience. It was phenomenal, and thank you for changing my mind and opening my eyes to what EVs actually are.
I don't want to say thank you. I want to say dirty words to you for ruining my life.
I use it as motivation to work hard.
Converting me to EV. I look forward to it. I think I haven't decided yet what my first EV is going to be. And I'm also interested to see what 5-year-old EVs do, what the batteries do. I'm interested to see what the technology is going to do. I love the fact that we now have a situation where you've got a motor that's going to have very little wear. So I'm looking forward to see how the batteries stand up to last with those motors, and is it going to be as simple as and is there going to be a time where you don't even have to go to the original ICE store, you just go to that bra with the sandals that sorts your screen out.
You can't drive into the wall, into the middle of the center court.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Can you fix my screen?
Can you just replace these cells here, please? Well, that's all we have time for, ladies and gentlemen, and I'd like to thank the Goliath and Goliath
dynamic duo.
Entourage, dynamic duo, the Goliath and Goliath brothers for being here today, being part of the EV road test, the first one ever in South Africa. You guys made it epic.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much.
Go and watch the video; it's amazing. Does anybody have a 2-pin plug?
Good, done.
Yes, I think what you just said just ended square
squarely on the end of the
Yes, man.
Every time.
Mind me a 2-point plug. Thank you.